Imagine a day where children are guided and nurtured in a way that honors their unique humanness. A day where, instead of being expected to change in order to fit in, children can be met right where they're at. Welcome to Where They're Planted, a podcast for parents and care providers of unique children. Caring for a child with a developmental, emotional, or behavior challenge, a neurodiverse brain, or difficult early life experiences can be confusing and exhausting. On this podcast, we'll help your child flourish and strengthen their roots by helping you not only understand them, but also gain the skills to help them bloom where they're planted. We'll use brain science, nervous system tools, collaborative strategy sessions, and a deep understanding of the developmental process to create a fertile environment around your child in order to nurture their growth. I am your host, Jen Bluske, an occupational therapist with over 25 years of experience and a parent coach. My most closely held title, however, is that of a single mom of 2 thriving adopted kids, so I have walked this walk. I am truly excited to share, teach, and dive into these important topics on each episode. Welcome back to Where They're Planted. My name is Jen Bluske, and I am your host. I'm an occupational therapist and a parent coach, and I am excited to be talking to you today about a topic that might seem a little obscure, but it just keeps raising up for me in my life, and the parallels to my parent coaching work and my own parenting are just so deep that I wanted to just open this conversation. And the conversation that I want to have is what horse ownership has taught me about parenting and parent work and the subtleties of what it means to be an intentional parent. And I want to start just by kind of telling you about where this idea came from for me. So my daughter has always been a horse lover and has ridden for years and years and years. And about 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, she came to me and said, I need my own horse. I have to have my own horse. It's so important for my sport. It is so important for me. And so as the journey of learning something new unfolded, we bought a horse. In that process, I thought I was supporting my child in their passion, right? Just as we would in any sport our kids do, or any passion or any activity that they enjoy. And what I came to realize is that the life experience and the adaptability and the flexibility and the deep-seated unknown is something that I didn't expect. And so I just want to have a conversation today because just the other day I was out at the barn with my daughter and something didn't go as planned, which is consistently the way it is in horse ownership. And it struck me how much the experience of watching her learn to ride, watching her around a horse, watching her being part of caring for this horse, my own relationship with said horse paralleled a lot of the work that we do in our parent coaching work and a lot of the work that I do with families, and struck me just around the metaphors that I can pick up on. And so the first thing I want to kind of talk about is the fact that if anybody out in listening is, a horse person or a rider or has had some experience growing up with horses, is that these are big animals, right? They're 1,200 pounds. And so we might have perceptions that we have some control over said horse. And the reality is the horse has its own autonomy, its own ability to do what it's going to do. And we kind of can't stop it with our force, with our control. And that's one thing that has always struck me as such a parallel into our parenting is we come into parenting with this idea, this belief, this vision, this story of what it's going to be. And every time you show up in front of a horse at a barn, you got to let the story go. The story is no longer valid. It's an old story. It's already out of date. And one of the things I work so strongly with my families in coaching around is showing up with a beginner's mind each and every time we meet our children. We meet our children in the morning. We walk into an engagement with our child. We walk into maybe a fight with siblings. Is this idea that we already know the outcome. We have the control of the outcome. And how those old beliefs that were maybe given to us by our parents, or maybe given to us by society, or maybe given to us by whatever, we kind of have to have the ability to let those go, the ability to pivot into something unknown and uncharted. And that is one of the lessons that I notice as I watch my daughter ride and as I watch myself attempt to interact with this horse, is the story of what we think is going to happen each time we engage. The other lesson that has been made so clear to me, and there is so much research out there about this, and I will have Marcy Welty back on to talk even more about this, because she is the horse person in our area who is just so deeply connected into this. But there is this idea that you cannot fake calm in front of a horse. Horses are so perceptive. Their energy is so open, and they're so open to our energy that they can read into the center of our nervous system. And so we cannot act calm. We have to be calm. We cannot think about how we're just going to push through. We need to settle ourselves in order to create the connection, to create the change. And that is just something that I see over and over and over again in horsemanship. You can have all the right techniques, right? You can know exactly how to move your body. You can push your leg this way, and you can pull the rein that way. You could do everything exactly right. And if your nervous system sitting on top of that horse or leading that horse is not grounded and connected with the horses, all of those techniques go out the window. And man, do we see that in parenting, right? I work with so many parents who have very skilled, have so many high level skills. They know the techniques. They know what to say. They know how to shift. And our kids, our sensitive, especially our sensitive kids, can sense what's happening inside of our bodies. And so that's just such a parallel that I've seen in my work with parents, in my own parenting. And it's so highlighted in our work with horses that security needs to live in us. It's not about the circumstances. It's about what's happening inside of us. The third thing that I have just noticed time and time and time and time again is that consistency is the anchor, right? Consistency in, let's say my daughter, for example, rides the horse over very large jumps. And so the consistency of responding the same way with your body before you prepare the horse to jump, the consistency of responding the same time, the same way when they're coming out of the jump. Not that we're going to be rigid. So again, the parallels to parenting, we cannot be rigid. We cannot be rigid because we are working with a horse with its own nervous system. We're working with a giant animal who might have gotten spooked by the tree waving in the wind. But consistency is what matters. It's the rhythm of being able to find the predictability. And again, in our parenting, we know that attachment, right? Our attachment systems, our ability to have a secure attachment is founded on the ability for the child to know that the parent's going to respond about the same way every single time. Not exactly the same way, because circumstances are always a little bit different, but that basically things are going to feel the same, so that when the world out there is shifting, right? When the horse is spooked by the train coming by, or the leaves waving in the wind, or the child is unraveled by their friend not being able to play, or their favorite shirt not being clean, that consistency of connection, that consistency of response can be the same. And so it's in our anchor as the parent or the rider that connects us into the ability to function at the highest level, right? So for the horse, that's getting over the high jump. For the child, that might be getting up and going to school. That rhythm of consistency is what we want. So we don't have to do everything perfectly. We don't have to be rigid. We don't have to respond the same way every time. But we do need to have some rhythms of consistency. The third thing that I find so striking is that we, in horse ownership, for those who haven't been around horses, horses are very large, very delicate animals. They get a little like bump on their leg and they're lame for 3 weeks. They have a little bug bite and they might have an infection that needs rest. There is shifts and changes in how their spine works. And again, I've not being a horse person and catching up and learning of this, we're constantly adapting and shifting to where the horse is at, even though we might have a show coming up and we really need that horse to get over that jump. We actually need to adjust to where they're at in the moment. You cannot train a horse from where you wish they were, right? I wish they could get over a double jump. You have to start from where they actually are, which is a hard lesson. It's a hard lesson because that means some days when you go out to ride, you're only going to be able to walk around the ring a little bit. That means some shows you're going to have to stop midway through and honor the needs of the horse. And then let's talk about those parallels to our parenting work. Often we have this idea of what our kids should be able to do, right? Developmentally, they should be able to get themselves up and dressed in the morning by the time they're 9. Developmentally, they should be able to manage their emotions in public and not have a meltdown by the time they're about 7. And each and every day, as parents, we show up and we receive the child we have on that day, which might be, if you have a teenager, it might be that they might be kind of snarky. Doesn't mean you have to put yourself in the front of it, but they might be kind of snarky on a given day because they're really trying to work through a friend thing that happened. It might mean that you realize that the family outing was just too much overload. And we need to meet our child because it's their sensory system. It's too much for their sensory system. And again, so this is about that idea of pivot, that idea of I thought one thing was happening and now I'm engaging with my child and I'm seeing that something else completely is happening that I need to respond to, that I need to let go of maybe. And so in the world of horsemanship and being a horse owner, that is something that I have been able to let go of. I go out to the barn knowing that I intended to be there for an hour so she can do a ride, and I might be there for 2 hours because now we're wrapping a leg. Or we might think that, the horse has jumped this thing 17 times successfully, and we might have to adjust because on a given day, something is different. It's windy. And that ability to find presence in the moment, the ability to find presence with the animal and in parenting with our child right where they are is the powerhouse of change. That ability to be oh, okay, we're having this kind of day. Here we are. We're right here right now. And the ability to pivot within a grounded, anchored self is the place of change for so many of our kids, especially, when I'm thinking about my work I do a lot of work with families, protective parenting. So families who are single parenting, maybe just in one household, or maybe the kids are going back and forth. And that when they are going back and forth, that ability to receive the kids back to your house after they were maybe with their other parent, not having any idea what state they're going to show up in. Right. And that ability to quickly assess, to be okay, we're here now. This is our state. This is where we're at. those ideas of what I was going to do tonight, those aren't probably going to happen. Or, oops, I need to shift into something different. And I need to be grounded and connected in that pivot. It's in the pivot, the grounding in the pivot, where we see the power. And it's the grounding in the pivot where we see the co-regulation, that child's ability to see us and know, oh, I'm safe. I'm safe. Like everything is askew and everything feels a little chaotic right now, but like my parent is showing me that I'm okay right now by being okay in the shift, right? It decreases the shame of, well, we were going to go out to eat, but you guys aren't able to get your shoes on and behave. Or, man, this is just really, really hard. I just wish you guys would be able to do this, right? It's that belief that our kids are doing enough. Kids are being enough. They're doing their best. And again, in the horse world, because we have a big 1,200-pound animal who doesn't verbally communicate, but sure communicates pretty clearly through movement, that they're doing their best in the moment. The other thing that I have learned so much through watching and learning about these horses is that horses don't hold grudges, right? They have a rough lesson. They dirty stop at a jump. They are lazy one day and don't want to walk or don't want to do their workout. And they just carry on the next time. They don't hold on to past stuff. They just move forward. It's like starting afresh, that every new interaction is really a new interaction. That we're just letting the past go. And again, the power of that, man, that's hard as a parent, right? If you've had a child who has, especially when you have the big meltdowns, the big behaviors, the ability to start afresh, to come into the engagement, having kind of let go of like maybe yesterday's challenges, is the ability to be in the present. Again, horse ownership, being around horses teaches you that there is nothing but the present to be in. The next thing that I really have noticed is that in horse riding, there is, it appears to the eye who hasn't ridden horses, myself, that, right, you're just like on the horse and you're kind of like moving the reins. Maybe you're moving your legs a little bit, right? So it looks pretty simple. And in reality, there is this very complicated and nuanced system of pressure and release that happens with different body movements, different intensity, different timing, in order to communicate with the horse in a way that they can understand, in a way that gets the desired response. So there's a complicated move your hip to the left, push your right leg in, pull back with your left rein, and let go with your right. I'm making that up. It's that complicated in order to get the horse to round, in order to go the direction you want it to. And within this, what we think about, when I think about this, the parallels to parenting, is that in our parenting, there is this really subtle yet powerful way of applying a little bit of pressure, a little bit of expectation, a little bit of distress tolerance to our children, and then backing up just at the right time to create the sense of safety. And so there is this moving forward and pulling back that happens in parenting naturally. But man, it's not natural. It's incredibly nuanced. And when parents come to me again saying, I've done all of these things, I have these skills, and they have all of the tools in their toolbox, it's usually that little subtle ability to push and then to back up, and then to push a little harder and then to back up, so that we can use our nuanced abilities, right? Our nuanced abilities in parenting is our communication, both verbal and nonverbal, which we've talked about. It's our own regulation, increases and decreases. It's our attunement, right? It might be timing. Those are the subtleties that we use in parenting that are the parallels to move the leg and pull the rein in horsemanship. But it's those subtleties that help us slowly move towards change. Now, in parenting, if we keep the pressure on and just expect and re-explain and push harder and process more and expect different, right? We keep that pressure on without ever pulling off. We know that what often happens is one of two things. Kids either push back harder or they go into a shame spiral, get real quiet. Same with a horse, right? If you are really rough with a horse and are using your legs really intensely or pulling on the reins really intensely, the horse is likely going to be more reactive, or they're going to have very little go. In horsemanship, it's called very little go. They're going to be so downtrodden that you're not going to see the real horse. And so again, the parallel lesson of how do we push a little bit and then pull back in order to recreate safety, to create safety? How are we pushing a little bit without continuing on past the point that the child's nervous system and brain processing can handle? It's a powerful dance. And then the last thing is the relationship is the work, right? It's not about the pretty completing of the jump course at the show. That's the outcome that people see, right? That's what we get scored on. But the relationship is the work. It's that ability for the horse and the rider to have this smooth, consistent communication back and forth, to be able to ultimately trust each other, right? If you're sitting on a 1,200-pound horse, you hope you can trust your horse. The only way to trust your horse is for them to trust you. And so it's that relationship that's built. It's that deep understanding of the back and the forth communication. It's the trust that is the everything. And again, in the parallels to parenting, I see this all of the time, especially around school. It's not in the activity that they did. The activity that they did might just be like the outward expression, but it's in the relationship in parent-child, because our children are learning from our guide. It's the relationship that's teaching the underlying skills in order to be able to do the end goals. And so in my work, I don't even always care so much about what the end goals are. But the end goals will come once we have the solid, trusted relationship. And the end goals might not be the end goals that we thought, because remember, our beliefs sometimes need to go out the window. The end goals might be the end goals of what the child, what their individual constitution is doing, is able to do, right? And so that's that letting go and that ability to pivot into the unknown of, I want the ultimate end goal for my child, and I don't know what that is, because they're going to eventually determine that for us. In this work, in this parallel that we have, it's about the pivot. It's that ability to pivot from sort of our internal, what we thought, pull into our grounding and sort of see what's happening with the horse or with the child in a new light, being able to let go of some of the pieces that aren't serving us, some of the stories that aren't serving us, be able to do the delicate dance of the push and release, right? Give a little bit of pressure, release, a little bit of pressure, release, without going overboard to one way or another, and finding that deep, deep grounding in ourselves so that we can continue on. And so I hope that parallel, I'm assuming most of you out there are not horse riders. And like I said, because it's so new to me, the parallels strike me so intensely because I'm learning it with a fresh set of eyes. The parallels into our parenting and how we can maybe decide how we want to show up, whether we want to show up differently in some way or keep doing the same things in some way, whether we want to see our children in a different light, whether we want to engage with them in a different way than we have, is all open. to us. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Where They're Planted is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Jen Bluske. Music is by Gaston Reen and Pod 5. Thank you for loving your child right where they're planted.